from 3 different programs in SBEAP. And they're going to talk with us about their programs, about confidentiality and how their programs are set up, and how they get referrals, and who they get their referrals from, and items like that. And hopefully we'll learn a lot about the differences and the similarities between the different SBEAPs around the country. So today we have LaRhonda Bowen, Belinda Breidenbach, and Jennifer Wittenberg are going to present, and we will be recording. So if I could ask everyone to either mute yourself, or Nancy, if you would just make sure everyone's muted during the recording. Ed's comment says he still sees meeting should start in a few minutes. I didn't know that ours said that. Nancy, is he on the right?
Right. So Ed, what's happening is you just need to toggle to your lower menu screen, and you have you just don't have the right screen up. Linnell, you are still not showing anything to my
right. I'm pulling that up right now. LaRhonda, are you ready to present first, or would you be willing to present first?
Sure. I was on mute. Yes, no problem.
Okay. I'm going to pull up your presentation and get that on the screen for everybody to see. Okay, so I'm going to share. All right. This first presentation is from LaRhonda Bowen. Ms. Bowen is the Ombudsman for the California Air Resources Board, which is CARB, in Sacramento, California. As the liaison, did you get us started recording, Nancy?
Yes, I did.
Okay, sorry. As the liaison between the public and the board, LaRhonda reports to the chair. Her key responsibilities are proactively ensuring that interested stockholders, including small business owners, can and do engage with the CARB so that the agency hears and considers their perspectives in the development and implementation of policies and regulations. Develops and strengthens relationships with governmental, nonprofit, business, and other entities to proactively identify big ideas for environmentally sustainable practices and technologies, identify barriers to implementing them, and identify and share best practices solutions. Identify and resolve problems brought to the Ombudsman and take action to assist CARB to learn from and prevent them from reoccurring by sharing solutions with internal staff and others as appropriate. Ms. Bowen has extensive experience in environmental public policy, economic development, and market research. LaRhonda served as an advisor to US EPA and the public advisor for the South Coast Air Quality Management District. Prior to joining the ARB in July 2009, she consulted on air quality policy, renewable energy policy, homeland security issues, stakeholder engagement, and communication strategies for governmental entities, utilities, and universities. Ms. Bowen is a native of Los Angeles and highly motivated to see California demonstrate the power of government, private industry, and non-governmental organizations building healthy communities together. Thanks, LaRhonda, for presenting today.
Great, thank you. So we can just go on to the next slide. Thank you for being willing to forward the slides for me. To everybody else, welcome. I am technology challenged, and so I'm really appreciating Linnell's help and her tutoring earlier this morning. So I'm going to go quickly through the slides that we use for our annual meeting, and the reason for that is it basically covers all the points of our program that you guys would find important. I'm going to take probably 10 minutes or so to do this, so if you have questions, please feel free to answer them. I think we're going to hold them, ask them at the end. I think we're going to hold them to the end. So you basically heard what our office does. The responsibilities that we have include not only small business, but all stakeholders, and the Ombudsman at the Air Resources Board serves the two traditional, both the traditional role of Ombudsman, which is taking public inquiries, their complaints, their issues, resolving them internally, making sure that we're able to adjust internally as possible. That same kind of approach applies to small businesses. They can call us, reach out to us. We let them know that their calls, their inquiries are confidential, that we do not disclose their information without their permission, and inform them that sometimes we can't resolve the problem sufficiently without being able to engage personally identifying information. And so before we share that information, we always check back with the customer. So far, I have only had a handful of people over my second time doing this kind of work, only a handful of people that have ever said, no, if you're trying to help me, I'm not going to let you disclose what you need to disclose. If we get a referral from enforcement, which we often do, that customer comes to us and we inform them that since they were initially referred to us by the enforcement division, we are not able to handle them in a confidential manner. Rather, we are there to work with them and help them think of different ways and work with enforcement and make sure that they can comply with the regulation, or if they can't, that we understand why they can't and we work with them to get an extension or whatever kind of workaround we can develop. Our agency has come up with the idea, the recognition finally, that some businesses just have economic hardship, and that is now a legitimate tool that we can use with the enforcement division to help that business get into compliance on a slower scale. Stakeholder engagement is key for us. You'll see at the end of this presentation a chart that we got from a research I did to look around the world and see who has done a successful job of engaging small business in regulatory development. Because both we and enforcement agree that if a rule is written properly, if the business has the tools it needs to understand and comply with the rule, then enforcement work is easier because the business had the opportunity to be in compliance. And we understood them well enough to create a rule they could comply with. So you'll see that that's the main graphic I use, and it's the main piece that I use in all of my work. We also have a Small Business Opportunities Advisory Panel. That is our equivalent of a CAP. In California, we do not have the CAP written. In fact, our entire program is not, in OT, not written into state law, and our CAP is not written into state law. And we are a very aggressive agency, but we were rather slow in implementing Section 507. And when we began to work with our small business stakeholders, I gave them the 507 guidelines. We've read it. They have everything from the law, and they decided that they did not want to be a committee where there were a lot of political appointees on there. They wanted to be a committee of small business owners and operators who had to comply with the rules, with 2 or 3 exceptions to that. So California has 35 air districts. The California Air Resources Board historically regulated mainly mobile sources, but now covers both mobile and some stationary. And ARB had air toxics and consumer products. The 35 air districts were focused on stationary sources, which is what we think of most of the time when we think of 507. And so we have our 35 air districts have an organization. That organization has an executive director. That executive director is one of the co-chairs of our SBOAP. Air Resources Board is a co-chair and a small business co-chair. So we'll go to the next slide. Forward ahead to the next one, yep. So this is our mission. Basically, it's to support the Air Resources Board to achieve federal and state clean air objectives, but by ensuring that California's small business owners are integrated into CARB's policies. So let's go on to the next one. That just tells you we focus on small business. The next slide. Next slide talks about our functions. You guys know this. This is what we all do, right? Provide unbiased help and problem investigation and resolution to the public. The picture you see on the bottom is one meeting of our Small Business Opportunities Advisory Panel. We meet 4 times a year. We try to meet 1 time at the site of one of the businesses. This is such a meeting. And then we meet by phone once in Sacramento, and once in Southern California. Okay, next slide. We're going to go through these pretty quickly. We engage small businesses earlier in the rulemaking. And this is an important slide when we talk about small business to our board members, and we talk about it to legislators, and we talk about it in the media. We try to put it in context. The audience that we're talking to, if we're talking to legislators, they care about jobs, and they care about employment growth. So we pick these statistics out of the U.S. Small Business Administration Office of Advocacy's annual reports, and I just think it's important for you guys to be aware of that tool. So these are the facts. We don't argue with them. We use them on our behalf. And pictures that you see at the bottom are the different kinds of industries and small businesses that we work with. California has large dairy industry made up primarily of small businesses still. Quite a few manufacturing plants yet, and construction. And those are all key areas for climate change mitigation, as well as for traditional regulatory issues. So next slide. We try to emphasize what small businesses need. These are the things we've learned over the years. They need long lead times because they have to plan for things. They need rules in plain language, as you guys already know. Tools, by that we mean resources, information, training, everything in order to understand the rule. Then sometimes they need financial assistance to actually be able to begin to afford to comply with the rule and work with the state to develop those tools. And then certainty. If I buy this equipment and it costs me $1 million, am I going to be able to use it for its useful life? And is your definition of useful life the same as ours? Those kinds of questions. Next slide. We get to the answers through early engagement. So we call compliance assistance sort of a broad category, covers many different things you can see here. This is the first picture you see is workshops. We do workshops with other staff. We support programs. We have a very small staff, but we support programs agency-wide to go out into the field. The 2 ladies that you see on the bicycle, this is an incentive, a recognition program we do. This is not a regulated business by us, it's a gym. They use pedal power, so the people that are actually pedaling the bikes are providing the electricity to run part of the gym. And so there's just 2 different ways of considering compliance assistance. One is compliance with the truck and bus rule, and the other is going beyond compliance, and we recognize them with rewards. Go ahead. Next slide, please. This is just a quick list of some of the accomplishments we did last year. Air toxics is very important. AB 17 is something you guys are going to hear more and more about nationally, and this is the environmental justice work. With climate change and climate mitigation, as well as with mobile sources, low-income communities often have less opportunity to clean up their vehicle infrastructure, for example. And so here in California, we passed something called Assembly Bill 617 that addresses this funding gap, and it's using our cap and trade revenue. It's a big deal, but I want you just to have your ears attuned. You can go look and see on the EPA website. They have come up with environmental justice screening tools. So you'll be hearing more about that in your states, no doubt, and so will your businesses. And we also have incentive funding for zero emission vehicles, which is what ZEVs, Z-E-V stands for. And we've continue to work with US EPA on a pollution prevention grant. The Green Business Program is a statewide program. It's extending our hand, because what they do is ensure that a business is in compliance with all the local regulations before that business can actually get a green seal of approval, and that helps the business with marketing. So EPA and ARB work together on that. Okay, next slide. You see here, the picture here is of one of the, this guy rode his bike with little saddlebags on the side to a grocery store that was established as a food co-op, a small business cooperative with grant money from US EPA. We helped with the Green Business Network, making sure they were in compliance with everything. For example, water rules, air rules, greenhouse gas, even on their refrigeration units. They're small enough that all they have to do is put a cover over them, and just making sure little things are done to help save that business money, help reduce emissions, and allows them to be a model for other businesses, and they're doing really well. Next slide. So this just gives you a sense of the state of California. It's big, it's long, it's hard. We're in Sacramento, which is sort of the orange, near the orange middle part of the state, a little bit north of that. And we have just a very small staff. So everything for us is about multiplying the reach that we can have. We partner with everybody. You'll see on the bottom of every slide, connected, because we have to connect with economic development organizations, chambers of commerce, community organizations, universities, community, different kinds of groups that are located, small business, not just small business development centers, but also small business trade associations, ethnic business associations. We will partner with anybody at any level in order to get the word out about the regulations that affect the businesses, and more we're using the small businesses to broadcast to their own peers, and this is turning out to be very effective. While this slide is just focusing on disadvantaged communities, DACs means disadvantaged communities. That's sort of a California term, low-income EJ communities. We work statewide, and as our businesses tell us, the key problem the businesses have with keeping up with ARB regulations is that while we have 35 air districts spread throughout the state, we have one Air Resources Board. And we tend to hold meetings either in Southern California, in Sacramento, or once in a while in the San Joaquin Valley. So our businesses tell us, listen, we need to know what you guys are doing. We are from Calexico at the California-Mexico border, all the way up to Fort Bragg at the California-Oregon border. So that just gives you a sense of the reach that we try to do. It's not easy. Slide. Next slide, please. So we try to engage, as I said, everyone. Kathy Taylor is no longer the Assistant Director for Region 9 EPA. We now have a formal regional administrator, and he has already come out and met with one of our small business groups, one of the members of our Small Business Opportunities Advisory Panel. But this is the inside of that grocery store that I was talking to you about earlier. Okay, next slide. We do talk, one of the questions that was asked was, do we talk about the Clean Air Act, Section 507? We do, in fact, and that's what we say. We're mandated. We provide the small business perspective, assist with these different areas, and we represent a cross-section of regulated industries. That, again, is our Small Business Opportunities Advisory Panel. The man has a Jaguar dealership, and you might wonder why would a Jaguar dealership want to be part of a Small Business Advisory Panel? They have to comply both with the local air district rules for disposal for all their mechanic services, et cetera, as well as with ARB rules. The lady in the middle is one of our senior staff, and the lady on the left is our small business, another member of our Small Business Advisory Panel, who works actually for a public agency, but she handles sewers and everything related to water and disposal, another area where small businesses are heavily engaged. Next. This is the stakeholder engagement. It is taken from the Australian Government Productivity Commission. As I told you, it's pared down here. But basically, we start with a consultation. We're asking our staff, before they have decided what the rule is going to say, to reach out to the industry they intend to regulate, reach out to us, and we will help bring them to the table. So there's at least an opening discussion of what the problem is and how we see getting to solution, and a dialogue with the business community that sees the same problem but may have completely different ways of thinking about the solution. This is beginning to take root. It was very strange and hard, but we're starting to see the staff reach out to the Ombudsman's office early on to say, you know, these are some of the questions we have. Can you help us figure them out? And so we have an airport ground support regulation under development now that's really coming along well for that. The next step is education. We learn from the business learns from us. This is just Alan Abbs, our, like I said, we have 35 air districts. That's how the air districts are divided. Next, you can just see them all over the state. Next slide. Richard McCaskill is another one of our small business, our SBOAP members. He is a Desert Storm paratrooper, Special Forces, came out of the Desert Storm a little bit unbalanced, was homeless for a while, built an outstanding recycling center in his home area of San Diego, and now does consulting for establishing financial resources for minority businesses throughout the state and the nation. Next. These are some of the things that we're working on now. We've worked on most of this year. I think the biggest thing is still the last, I would say the last 3 bullets for us. The barriers and opportunities in every rule, we try to identify them early. It is still a challenge. We create the regulatory development tools. For us, staffing is an issue. Some of you know Jenna Latt. She was our tool development person, and she has gone to another section in the agency, and we're still working to find a suitable replacement for her. And then getting the compliance assistance tools into the hands of the small businesses. Implementing those 3 pieces of our plan are still the most challenging. Okay. Next slide, which I think is pretty much just some references, yeah, for everyone. I guess this page would be on the website or somehow, I'm not sure, but if anybody wants the information from that page, we'll get it to you. Okay? Thank you very much. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, LaRonda. Sorry about that. I was getting messages and I was trying to work between 2 screens, and I actually advanced your
no problem. I appreciate
information page a little sooner than I wanted to. So if anybody wants any of this information, we are going to have the PowerPoints, I think, available, as well as this recording. So you'll be able to go back and look at these references. And there's another one that I'm going to bring up later, which LaRonda talked about, that has to do with the Small Business Administration. So after our other speakers, we might talk about some of those things too. Our next speaker will be Belinda Breidenbach. I'm going to stop sharing real quick so Belinda can get her PowerPoint ready to present.
Should we do questions for LaRonda at the end or at this point?
I wanted to hold all questions. If you have a question and you want to put it in the chat for later for LaRonda, that would be great. I would just like, because sometimes a question you might have might might be good at the very end when you can get all three perspectives perhaps from everyone as well.
All right.
Okay. Our next speaker is Belinda Breitenbach. Belinda joined the Idaho Small Business SBDC in January of 2018 as the Environmental Assistance Coordinator. SBDC is Small Business Development Center. I couldn't think of it just now. Her role is to assist businesses understand and comply with air regulations. She brings experience working for the Environmental Protection Agency, Office of Compliance Air Program in Washington, D.C. She has written Clean Air Act regulations, led a team to create regulations that were straightforward and understandable, and developed compliance training. Belinda has a BS in geology from the University of Florida and an MS in environmental planning from Florida State University. Thank you, Belinda, for presenting today.
Thank you. And I'm obviously a long way from the start of Florida, where my background is, but different from LaRonda, I'm located in the Small Business Development Center, and if I can get my slide to advance, as I told Jennifer, Idaho gets confused a lot of times with Iowa, but we hear comments about, oh, I really like things in the Midwest, and you know, oh, the corn, you grow a lot of corn. So I kind of wanted to identify that this is actually the outline of Idaho. We are in the Intermountain West, the northern part of the Rocky Mountains. We actually have two of the deepest canyons in North America. The Grand Canyon is number 3. We are made up of high deserts, and as well as the mountains. We also have a seaport on the Columbia River. 70% of our state is public land, and we only have 1.25 million people in the entire state. We have a real difference between what gets referred to as the great state of Ada, and Ada is the county that the capital is in, and the rural areas of the state, which is the majority. But you see a lot of contrast between the two. I've actually heard people say, oh, but they're not in Boise. They're not actually subject to air regulations, are they? And to give you a little bit more perspective on what our state is like, we have 2 counties that have areas that are about the same size as the state of New Jersey, but neither of them have anywhere near 10,000 people in them. And we have the only air mail where you get your mail delivered once a week to an airstrip because there are no roads. And to travel from the north to the south in the state, we have a 2-lane highway. There is an interstate that runs along the high desert across the south, and we get a little bit of I-15 in the east. But just to kind of give you a perspective, because while we all visualize California, I wanted to have a little idea of what it's like here in Idaho. So the SBEAP here in Idaho, in the Small Business Development Center. We are located on Boise State University's campus. We have a state office and 6 regional offices. One of those regional offices is co-located here at Boise State, and I am technically in the state office. So I end up not only by phone and email, but traveling around the state to consult with different businesses. And along with the SBDC, the SBEAP, too many acronyms, sorry, the core component is no cost confidential consulting. And even if you have been referred to us because there was a complaint against your business to the Department of Environmental Quality, everything that we discuss with you is still confidential. And that sounds like that's a difference than what California had. And we have 1/2 of an FTE for the entire state of Idaho. And I'm sure that will contrast greatly. I was interested in how many people California had, and I think Iowa has quite a bit more as well. So it's basically me, and I'm here 2.5 days a week. And then I have to balance that with weeks that I travel and go over the hours, and I have a very interesting accounting system I have to run. So on the confidentiality is emphasized in every bit of communication that we do. It is a requirement of the Small Business Development Center. We have to sign a conflict of interest statement that the Small Business Administration has had some influence and put together that document. We sign that annually, and the confidentiality is stressed. Now, I looked because some of the questions were, do we have our confidentiality in a state statute? Is Section 507 referenced, or the state implementation plan? And no, I could not find any of that, but confidentiality is a core piece to all of our consulting. And then the question of where do our client referrals come from? So the Department of Environmental Quality has a hotline, and when they receive a complaint, they have to follow up on it. If they think that it's going to be a small business, they will refer that complaint to SBEAP first, so that can have an idea of what the business is actually doing and help make sure, are they in compliance or not. They also list on their website my contact information, so that if you are searching through the DEQ website trying to get answers and you hit the small business tab, it will refer you as well. And then we have people that come directly through the SBDC, either calling or through our website. And then one of the things that I want to start doing this next year is the SBDC has a lot of clients, and they might not all be subject to environmental regulations, but I want to start this year cross-consulting with the clients throughout the state to make sure that there isn't anyone who has let the environmental requirements slide. So that's something we haven't done a lot of, looking within SBDC clients, but I want to start that up. And then my grant identifies that I should have at least 30 clients a year. Big part of what I do also is outreach, and I thought it might be interesting to share. I have a work plan for what I am supposed to accomplish, and it's 4 pages and a lot of duties here. So technical environmental assistance, air quality education and outreach, compliance assistance, including emissions calculations, helping them determine if they need a permit, helping go through those calculations, or if they qualify for an exemption. I'm also supposed to put on an Air Quality Awareness Month campaign, manage and maintain the SBEAP program for the state, communicate with our compliance advisory panel, and in Idaho, our compliance advisory panel is actually all made up of small businesses. They also write quarterly newsletters, participate in a lot of DEQ activities, attending professional development courses, and coordinate and collaborate with EPA or municipal governments and environmental interest groups. And I think it's a lot for one half-time employee, but that's what my plate has. And I just went through my 2018 and ticking off and enumerating what I had done in each one of those areas. So the projects that I end up working on, I get a lot of those individual permitting and exemption clients. And here, there is no ordinary client. We could have food processors, I've had rock crushers, auto body shops, all different types of manufacturing. And one of the things that I'll add in here, we don't have much of a P2 component here in this state. We're air only, and we don't have a P2 program. The Department of Environmental Quality does have someone who is in charge of P2, and they work across air and water. So the outreach is another large component of what I do. So DEQ comes up with areas that they're concerned with. Right now, they've determined that a lot of the special permits that they had that were supposed to be making it more streamlined for rock crushers, they're discovering that some of them are actually not reading their permit, surprising, and missing some of the requirements. So they've asked me to help with reviewing a rewrite of their permitting letter and to actually create a insert that instead of a bunch of language is more like a bold flyer like you would have for your yard sale that says, you know, congratulations, you have a permit, but wait, there are some other things you need to do. So that's one of the outreach that I'm doing. I'll be posting on the listserv. Their metal fab is one of the areas of concern that DEQ wants to do outreach, and I have been having a lot of meetings with a lot of different groups trying to determine what that outreach is going to look like and how best we can reach those metal fab operations so that they know what they're subject to. And then I've been doing quite a bit. We had a question that came out a while ago saying, is anybody doing anything with the VW settlement? And in Idaho, I am. So we have the part for the electric vehicle charging stations, and then we have the diesel truck replacement. As I went around the state in the last couple months, I put on a presentation trying to get small businesses along what are our designated electric vehicle corridors, get the information to them that the application is out there and what you would need to do to host a station, and seeing if we can get some of that money to small businesses. The second part has come out now where replacing diesel trucks, and the application on that is closing in January. They gave a very short window, so I'm actually in the second week of December going to be hosting a statewide webinar for small businesses to get them all of the information that they need so they can apply for that money and replace these older, more polluting diesel trucks. And I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of how, I mean, my state is different, it's smaller, and but we have a lot of activities going on.
Well, thank you, Belinda. That was a great presentation, and I've got some questions for you that I'm going to hold till the end, but I do appreciate this.
All right.
If anybody has any other questions, you know, I mean, you can type them in the chat if you're worried you're going to forget them. And our next presenter is Jennifer Wittenberg. Jennifer has been with the Iowa Waste Reduction Center since February of 2007, first as a program assistant before being hired as an environmental specialist in February 2010. During that time, Jennifer primarily worked with the Iowa Air Emissions Assistance Program, developed multiple regulatory tools and resources, including Paint Tracker, Grain PTE, various emission calculators, and provided environmental and compliance support to Iowa small businesses. In July 2016, Jennifer's hard work for the IAEAP was recognized when she became the program manager. As program manager, Jennifer works closely with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, the DNR, and IAEAP staff to ensure requirements of the program are not only met, but that the program continues to provide resourceful assistance and tools for Iowa's small businesses' air emission needs. She earned her MS in environmental science and a BA in earth science education with a minor in chemistry education from the University of Northern Iowa. Thanks for speaking with us today, Jennifer.
Yes, thank you, Linnell, and thank you for allowing me to offer our perspective on these topics here from the state of Iowa. And it's kind of amazing to me how much the state of Idaho and what they're doing there and what we're doing here in Iowa are similar, and also the fact that when I tell somebody I'm from Iowa, if it's outside of the Midwest, they commonly ask me if that's where they grow potatoes. So apparently it goes back and forth between Idaho and Iowa if we grow corn or potatoes. So that was kind of made me laugh there when Belinda shared that information. So as Linnell said, I am the program manager for our Iowa Air Emissions Assistance Program here in the state of Iowa, which is the SBEAP, or Small Business Environmental Assistance Program here for the state. Our SBEAP program is part of the Iowa Waste Reduction Center. The Iowa Waste Reduction Center was created back in 1987, and they were tasked with, it was the Iowa Waste Reduction Center for the Safe and Economic Management of Solid Waste and Hazardous Substances. This was part of the Groundwater Protection Act here that created that center, and it is in Iowa code where it describes the center and the mission of this and the mission of the center. So our Small Business Environmental Assistance Program, when the requirement within the Clean Air Act Amendments, Section 507 came about, that the state needed to have a assistance program. Since the Iowa Waste Reduction Center was already established and located at the university here, it was decided that the Small Business Assistance Program would be located at the same place under the Iowa Waste Reduction Center. So as I mentioned, similar to Idaho, we are located at the University of Northern Iowa here in Cedar Falls. We are part of the Business and Community Services branch, and that falls underneath the College of Business here at the university. Belinda thought that we were a larger program, and at one point in time we were. We used to be a 6 all the way up to a 6 FTE program. Currently, however, we are down to 1.25, and I currently have 2 specialists and 1 support staff that fulfill that 1.25 employees. We are funded by the Iowa Department of Natural Resources Air Quality Bureau, and so that from the Title V emission fees is where our funding comes from. So with that reduction in the number of full-time employees that we have, the referrals and confidentiality has changed somewhat over the years. As we've decreased staff, we have become more focused on education and training and have less of the direct assistance tasks. So that has changed a little bit over the years, but we still have, we still do deal with the referrals and confidentiality. So speaking of those, we have, we typically get anywhere from 5 to 10 referrals each month, and those come from various entities. We get referrals, of course, from our Department of Natural Resources, our regulating authority here, from the central office, as well as the field office inspectors from around the state. In addition to that, we get referrals from other small businesses, small business development centers, Iowa, OSHA, and then there's some other state programs that also provide us referrals, trade associations, and economic development programs. So how that happens when those come in, it kind of just depends on who's in the office that day, who takes that call, and it depends on the state of, or what the company is requesting as far as, what assistance they need, whether it's air. The Iowa Waste Reduction Center is multimedia, so it just really depends on what the need is of the business, on who takes that referral. For businesses that are referred to us from the DNR, the regulating authority, we ask the inspectors to have the business contact us instead of us reaching out to the business. This helps us to know that first of all, that the business is motivated enough to contact us and wants our assistance. We very rarely will reach out to a business based off a request from an inspector. I can only think of maybe one time that has actually happened. Once that business contacts us, following the referral from the inspector, we always encourage that business to reach out to their inspectors and let them know that they're working with us. This does a couple things. First of all, it tells the inspector that they are taking some initiative and are working on whatever it is that the inspector requested. And we have a great relationship with DNR and our inspectors in the state. And so the business letting the inspectors know that they're working with us, they usually give them a little bit of a break and not necessarily a break, but they don't breathe down their necks as they might in other cases. So from there, from that point on, we work directly with the business, and then it's up to the business to share whatever information they need to back with the inspector. So we ask that the business make those connections. If we get referrals from businesses, we do have a client waiver that we use as part of the Iowa Air Emissions Assistance Program that states that the information is not routinely shared. It doesn't necessarily say that the information is confidential, and I'll get to this in a second. It's kind of confusing because we have the Iowa Waste Reduction Center, our main center, and then the SBEAP that is underneath our center, and there's kind of different differences between the two. So this is the confidentiality that is actually written within Iowa code for the Iowa Waste Reduction Center. Within the Iowa code, it describes the assistance information and remember this is for the Iowa Waste Reduction Center, that is, it states that the assistance information means all information voluntarily supplied to or obtained by an assistance program, and earlier it had defined one of those as the IWRC. Furthermore, it states that the assistance information in possession of an assistance program or an employee or an agent of the program is privileged and confidential, and goes on to state that, you know, it can't be subpoenaed or whatever within administrative or judicial proceedings. Additionally, it says that that information shall not be used by an employee or agent of the state in determining whether to initiate an enforcement action or investigation by the state. So this is the confidentiality clause within Iowa Code for our assistance program, the Iowa Waste Reduction Center. Now, for the Iowa Air Emissions Assistance Program, I stated our funding comes from the Iowa DNR Air Quality Bureau. We have a contract with them, and within that contract, it states that the deliverables shall include everything produced by you and I, that's us, that is related to the tasks, except for materials both you and I and DNR agree are confidential according to Iowa Code in that section that I just referenced. So that's kind of where the confidentiality comes in with the Iowa Air Emissions Assistance Program. It's not 100%, you know, black and white, but there is something in there. Also, later in the contract, it does state that the parties agree to comply with applicable Iowa law regarding confidentiality. So we do have that. That being said, that confidentiality clause for our center has remained unchanged since its inception back in 1987. And honestly, it's never really been an issue. There's really been no cases where we felt that we had to withhold information from DNR regarding a facility. We typically just ask that facility to share whatever it is that it is that DNR is requesting. And we just kind of have a mutual agreement there between DNR and us. So, and that is all I have.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Welcome.
So, going to open the floor now for attendees to ask any questions that they might have to any of the presenters.
Hi, this is Jennifer Lipkin from Clark County, Nevada. Our small business program is actually part of our air quality department. And one of the things that happen that I have noticed is that small business assistants will provide the business with information, tell them this is what you need to do, you know, offer to fill out forms and that sort of thing. And then we also actually attend the hearing officer boards. And it has happened on more than one occasion where the person that has the violation says, okay, we're working with small business and they told us to do that, and that's not what we told them to do, or they didn't do what we told them to do. How do you guys handle that?
This is LaRonda. We don't have that happen so much at the Air Resources Board because we don't have that kind of a forum here. But when I was at the South Coast Air Quality Management District, we did have the hearing board. And normally we would go over the application, and the way that was set up, the customer had to make an application and demonstrate 6 findings that are included in legislation. And so in helping them fill out that form, we were able to clarify where misunderstandings were, either on our part or their part or both. And then when we weren't legally allowed to advocate for them, but at the hearing itself, they would make their case, and the hearing board officers would often call on us for clarification. We would also speak with our legal folks who were obviously on the other side of the table in advance and let them know why we thought that this particular entity should have in our case, it was a variance or a continuation. We let them know why, and where there was disagreement, we just left it up for the panel to decide. But we didn't. So by pre-discussing things with the customer, we avoided the misunderstandings that would have normally occurred in front of the hearing board?
No, yeah, we did meet with the customers. They came to the office and we met with them, and they gave us the list of violations. We told them how they needed to correct it and what their options were. And unfortunately, they did not follow through with the options. And then they told the hearing officer that we told them to do something else.
Are you able to speak at the hearing or no?
Well, and that's where the complication arises, is that where does the confidentiality begin and end with that? Because it's like, okay, well, if you swear me in, then at what point do I answer questions? What point do I not answer questions? How does that, how do you walk that line?
So for us, if the hearing officer asked us a question, we would answer it, but we made that clear with the business before we went in. Alternatively, we did not have to be in the room for the hearing.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any states that have actually like some kind of, I thought there was a few states, SBEAPs, that had like a warranty or like a guarantee for their services. Or am I thinking of something else?
This is LaRonda, I haven't heard that. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just have never heard a warranty or guarantee for the SBEAP service.
No.
I think Indiana actually
Yeah,
has
this is
one.
Mark Stoddard. Indiana has a quality assurance guarantee. Now, that doesn't mean it's carte blanche. We will write up a letter. We will also go in with a focus on what are we talking about, what is the scope of our review, and we will put down our findings, our observations. Now, with that being said, we may be helping someone perhaps initiate the process of an air permit application. But at some point, once that application goes in, then it's up to that individual to follow up with the permit writer to maybe address any questions that may come up in the process. Or if it's a process where it's complying with some provision, or even applying for a permit, it really is still up to the individual to take action. If they fail to take action, it's really the onus is on them. But yeah, we do have a quality assurance guarantee. Now, for that to be invoked, the entity that we assist has to waive that confidentiality in order to share that letter, the document that we provide them.
So Mark,
does that help?
LaRonda,
Yeah.
what is in your agreement? What is it that you're warrantying?
Basically, that in essence, what we're warranting is that when we go out to a facility and we make observations, that if it were an inspector, they would be pretty much making the same observations, coming up with the same findings.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, it depends on how fine you want to dig down. As far as did they keep a record, did they have a record that was available during our visit, or a subsequent visit by an inspector? Was that record available when we were there but is no longer available? If they failed to take an action, like a report that should have been sent in and they still didn't send it in, that's still going to be a problem.
I see. Thank you for clarifying that. I wasn't aware of that at all, so thank you.
We had a question in the chat. LaRonda, how many SBEAP FTEs do you have in California?
That's a hard question. We have 35 air districts. Because some of them are rural and maybe the executive officer and 2 other people, in that case, they don't really have a separate small business environmental assistance program because the executive officer does everything. So at the large districts, we have 4 really large districts. They do all have small business programs, but the smaller and rural districts don't have a formal program, but they use our information, and then CAPCOA, this California Air Pollution Control Officers Association, has a small business working group, and we share information with them that they then can get out to the rural districts. So we have 4 that are large and solid, and they're in there, and then we have probably another 5 that are aggressive to the extent that they have staff, and then the rest are smaller districts, and they just have 2 or 3 staff total for the whole agency, so they don't have a discrete small business program. Does that help?
Yeah. Do you make referrals, LaRhonda, from your office? Like if you get a call in from an industry that has questions and they're a small business, do you make those referrals to the CARBs for them to go and work with the client?
CARB is the state agency. I will call my counterpart or whoever the small business person is, or sometimes in our state, it's actually a permit officer at the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. So it depends on the size of the company and the nature of the issue. But between GoBiz, that's what we call the Governor's Office one, GoBiz and the local air district, yes, we will hand deliver that customer and their issues to the next person that they need to be talking to. So we stick around to make sure that there's understanding on all sides and that there's a comfort level before we let go of that handshake.
And then do you get follow-ups from those local SB visits, or so that you know that things were taken care of, or that...
Really, we don't hear back. I mean, we hear back if there's an ongoing problem. So the business will always call back if they don't think they got the problem resolved. They just always call back. We try to make sure that that customer is so comfortable with us that there's no fear or concern that we would hand them off inappropriately. And so we always say, in the presence of the person we're handing them off to, if you have any problems, we don't expect you to have any problems. This is a great organization or person. We expect everything to go smoothly. And if you find that you have an issue you still need to resolve, please feel free to call us back. And they always do. It's not often, but they do. And sometimes we find that a customer has a chronic history with a particular air district of non-cooperation. So they've been very sweet and cooperative with us, but when we connect them with even the executive officer at their own air district, they don't have that reputation. Those are difficult. We have probably 5 of them in the state so far, and we just work. We'll let them keep coming back to us, and we will, we and their executive officer from their air district will ultimately both tell them, I'll usually set up the conference call, and we will have all of us on the line, and we'll stop the behavior. Like we don't have time to play games. We're here to help you, but if you don't want the help, that's okay. That's your choice. And then we get off the line, and we let that customer drop. Usually it takes them about a year or 2, a different issue, and they come back and try the same approach. But we treat them fresh each time. But we do have a handful of those, yes.
California seems to have the most layers, you know, of maybe any of the other SBEAPs that I've ever spoken with or known about or learn about. It seems like you guys have the most layers of you know, enforcement, SBEAP, you know, your SBO system, and everything than most other states have.
Well, we're the only state in the country that has 2 extreme non-attainment areas. Most states have, well, most of the states are not in even severe non-attainment, right? Sure. And we also have a huge state and a huge population and a big economy. So we can't, and each region of California is completely different. So if I'm down in San Diego, military base, formerly still a very urban population, but it borders Mexico, and they have just different issues. If I'm up in the North Redding area, they call it the end of civilization, because any further north than that, it really isn't the end of civilization. But when you get further north, you have these really tiny districts with maybe in two cases, we have an Air District Executive Officer who is also the fire department, the fire chief. And in a neighboring one, the executive officer is the mayor and wears 5 or 6 other hats. So it just depends on where you are in our state. It is complex, but generally the individuals and the businesses in a particular area know their region. And what we do with the SBOAP is try to bring that diversity to our staff, because our staff don't understand it. The businesses get it. The executive officers in the different districts get it. But because we're located in Sacramento and our staff is mainly here, we also have an office in Southern Cal, we just don't understand that complexity that you have already identified so quickly.
Yeah, I'm still not 100% clear how it all works there, but
So the USPA sets the federal standards. The state of California sets standards for greenhouse gas emission reductions and mobile sources. And the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment sets the air toxic standards, and they just set a whole new standards for California that are more stringent than the rest of the country. The local air districts implement the traditional stationary source regulations, and they administer grant programs. ARB generates the funding, the legislature appropriates it to the air districts, and then the air districts distribute it, but they're under ARB guidelines, and that's grant funding to help businesses comply with regulations early, often mobile source regulations or technology forcing regulations. It is complicated.
Yeah. Well. Do we have any other questions for our panel of speakers?
Well, I did have a question for both Idaho and Iowa. How do you, my question is, how do you cover all the businesses that you have to deal with the staffing that you have? Do you do webinars for them, or how do you engage them and reach out to them? Or do you wait for them to reach to you? Is that better?
This is Jennifer in Iowa. As far as that goes, with the reduction in our staff over the years, we have been tasked more with creating tools and resources and educating the businesses on, how to complete their emission inventory reporting requirements and things like that. So we've created, calculators and tutorials and things such as that. So we reach out and let them know those tools are available. We also provide assistance, direct assistance, but that's on a kind of, as needed if they call us basis.
Okay. I like the tools. Are those available online then at your website?
Yes. Yep. Everything that we've created is all online. IWRC.uni.edu is our main center's website, and there's a whole section for the Iowa Air Emissions Assistance Program. We have emission calculators. They're specifically more for the state here, but there's process-specific calculators as well as some industry calculators for rock crushing, limestone producers, concrete plants, grain elevator, things like that.
Great, thank you. I will look at your website, and one of the things we're trying to do is make sure people have one place to go, by industry at least, where they can find information. And you may have more information for some industries than we do.
Right.
It might be helpful.
Yeah.
And this is Belinda in Idaho, and we get most of our clients contacting us either through they've contacted DEQ's information line or they've contacted us directly. Also with the Small Business Development Center having 6 regional offices around the state, then individuals in those offices will refer people to me as well.
I see. Okay. Thank you both.
Well, I hate to wrap this up because I feel like this is a conversation that probably could go on and on and on if we were all together, all of our states, and sitting in a room and talking about the differences and, just even random situations that many of us have had over the years that, would be a help to new SBEAP staff and even to some of us who have thought we've seen it all and haven't. But we got started a little late, but it is 15 after, and I know I appreciate everyone that has hung on the line and stayed on for the discussions here at the end, because I think this is an important topic and it's very helpful to understand how other states operate their programs. So also, Nancy left a comment for everyone that we do have air quality tools by state on our national sbeap.org/environment page. So, be looking there if there are tools that can be helpful in the work that you do. And also, if you have a need for calculators or emission calculation tools, and you don't see it on the website, use the listserv, the SBEAP main listserv to ask those questions, because many of us have been working with air emissions for quite a while and calculating emissions from stationary sources, and we might have a calculation methodology that could help you, and share that out on the main with folks. So with that being said, does anybody have any closing comments? Or Belinda said that maybe this is a topic that could be continued at annual training, and I agree. I think it's something that could be carried forward, either on the education subcommittee as another topic in the future and expanded on, or even at annual training.
Well, I just want to thank you for pulling this together. It was very worthwhile for me.
Well, I want to thank my presenters, LaRonda and Jennifer and Belinda, for being willing to present today. And it's not always fun when we're working so hard to try to put together a presentation. And I appreciate everyone's flexibility and willingness to speak to us all today. So thanks, everyone. And I guess happy holidays, since we won't have another meeting in December. It'll be in January. So happy holidays. Hope you all have a safe and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye.
Thanks, Linnell.
Thank you.
See you in January.
Yep.